I am Isabelle. I am French, and I arrived in the UK now almost 20 years ago. In May, it will be 20, with mostly food experience in New York and Paris. So when I arrived here, my food experience didn't apply so much in the environment I used to work. So I started to really look for a new start in life, a new beginning. I've explored quite a few things which would carry me for a longer time than what I used to do, because I used to jump from one thing to another mostly. And then I tried a few things such as events management, artist management, all the things that I like to do. I was looking for something a bit obvious in my life to apply to my professional life. And I came around chocolate. One of my thoughts was about chocolate and what I could remember all along my childhood, my youth, and all, where every time chocolate had an important role in consumption, obviously. And so that's when I started with exploring really the craft, the making. I took a class, and it never stopped. So this is when I started working in chocolate with Melange Chocolate as a craft artisan maker, creating product all along. And a few years later, opening the Chocolate Museum, which was more linked to the to the history of chocolate, and linking to that the activities for people, families, making chocolate, tasting chocolates, and so on. So that's my kind of resume.
Amazing. And so, like, where are you based? And with the Chocolate Museum, is that an actual museum or is that a shop and it's just called the Chocolate Museum? What's the story behind that?
It wasn't a shop. It's still not. At the moment, it's I had to shut, in fact, the premises. It was a real museum with a real exhibition, which is still viewable on the website. I've kind of immortalized it with a 360 video to make it, because it was very hard for me to leave the premises, but I faced not eviction, but I had to leave due to rent increase after 10 years lease, which tripled. So really the museum being a very educational place, I couldn't afford that. So the museum is no longer really, doesn't have any longer a physical place. It still works remotely in schools, in other people's premises, even at Melange for small activities. But Melange has itself a shop. Melange itself is a shop in Peckham. The museum was in Brixton, so close to each other. So it's still in Peckham now for Melange.
Okay. Amazing. So like, with all of that, because it's quite impressive that you've kind of made that jump and like taken on a load of stuff over the years. What would you say is your biggest achievement out of all of that?
Maybe to make things happen out of an experimentation, out of a passion, which sometimes I confuse, vice and passion, I think, because it was pretty much a vice to start with, I believe, like really loving chocolate to the point of making it a profession. But really, I think it's quite essential. It was quite essential for me to find something. And the fact that I found really something that carried me 20 years in that same profession, enjoying it today, is the big achievement, I believe. It was really difficult for me to stick to any job. I was jumping from one to another. I was exploring many things. After 1 or 2 years, I was out. I was not really sticking to anything. So this, I believe, is the achievement.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say was your biggest struggle?
My struggle was probably teamwork. Teamwork being yes, staff, really. It was difficult for me to understand that people wouldn't have the same expectation as me, wouldn't work as much as me, because I didn't realize I was working very hard. And it seemed normal to me. It was kind of my rhythm. So I was really always on top of my game with both activities, running both. I still wonder now how I did it, honestly. Huh? But after 15 years, I'm like, how did I do that? But really, the beginning of it was probably my biggest struggle, because I was really arguing with people instead of helping. And it took me really years to understand that I had to be really more tolerant first, and really teaching people more patiently stuff and accepting mistakes and so on. So I think my biggest struggle was that, which very early made me decide not to grow. And I stayed very small in that sense, and I stayed like very much like a lifestyle business where I sustain myself, one or two staff. The museum has regular staff because I had no choice, and it was later on. So this I learned on time, but still I had a manager, so he helped me not to be as well in direct contact, in direct relationship with people, because my expectations are a bit too high. So I think it was my struggle. Now I'm better, but
I guess it's difficult, isn't it? Like you have to kind of hire the right people that kind of match the way that you want to work in a way, but then I guess, yeah, it's difficult to kind of pivot and work and meet someone in the middle in a way and kind of like work how they want to work as well. But yeah,
because
it must be challenging.
Because you think everybody's like you.
Yeah.
You don't think any different. So until you compare yourself and you realize that you're an animal like me, I was like, wow, yeah, maybe I need to slow down and tell people and teach people more. And it takes as well people effectively understanding me and be patient as well with me, understanding that I'm a bit mad on that, but that I don't mean anything besides, okay, get to work, So it's that. They taught me as well. Obviously, people taught me to be more patient, because after facing a few mistakes like that, you just have to realize your own mistakes, So it was really probably my biggest struggle. It was that.
Yeah. But it's like a learning curve, I guess. So like you said, you learned from
personal.
it as well. So
Yeah. You learn.
So with the shop in particular, are you concerned about like the energy crisis or the cost of living crisis? Have you noticed a change in your customers coming in less maybe, or have you had to like, I don't know, put on more sales or kind of think about your products and stuff like that?
Yes, definitely. The cost of energy tripled for me. And it was a huge, it was very difficult last year. I finally this year managed to change my contract to something which was 3 times lower and as before, but my existing contract was not even offering me to swap to a more affordable contract, even if they had it. So really, bills tripling for a small business is very difficult, because you're talking profits. And this is the type of money that you don't necessarily generate. So suddenly you pull really on the saving, which the saving for me is also like seasonal. So it helps me going through like the low season, the saving of the winter. So it was really worrying for me that at that point last year. I feel a bit better now, but yeah. But I found as well people, instead of buying the most expensive gift, went for the most affordable, something simpler. So my sales in volume increased in terms of volume, but not in terms of money. They decreased in terms of money. So it was, last year was that. I feel like there is a beginning of a new start. People feel like maybe they've managed as well, maybe their own bills, their own expenses, and it seems like, okay, there is a slow new start happening or stabilizing, where people maybe fear less. So hopefully it's going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned your slower months. So like, what's your busiest time of year, do you think? Is it like Valentine's Day, for example? Is it Easter? What's kind of your biggest influx of custom?
In order, it will be Christmas first.
Mm-hmm.
But Christmas and Easter could be quite equivalent, because Easter you pretty much have no choice but to get chocolate.
Yeah.
So it's really that. Christmas, because obviously everybody will complete their gift with chocolate, or they will offer something small to all their friends and colleagues, and so that's when I'm coming in. I'm pretty much the last minute gift. So those two are pretty much equivalent. The next will be Valentine's. Valentine followed by Mother's Day, but all these falling within as well school holidays. Most of the time it's very random, then it falls like at the moment Valentine's being during half term, in my area, a lot of people are gone. They go away with the children, so or as a couple. So you never know what to expect. Really, it depends when it falls. It depends if people go before the holidays, buy gift before they go, or if they're back. It's very much linked as well to that. But in order, definitely Christmas, Easter, and or Easter, Christmas are pretty much the same at the end, and the rest. And then it's really December, November to April, May. After it's really slowing down, where the cravings of chocolate are a bit less high.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So like, how do you cope with the slower months if you're not, so if you're having like a slow month or a slow couple of weeks, do you put on like classes, or do you do like your website work in that time? Like, how do you kind of like keep yourself busy in a way? Yeah.
Well, I'm happy I can take a little break as well when it's slow, because I find
Definitely.
that I work a bit too much during these months, and that I reach often the point of exhaustion, and I'm not getting younger, so physically I really feel it. So when it slows down, I'm quite happy that I can as well be it's less demanding. But financially, it's really the busy months which are absorbing the expenses of the slow months. So of course I'm not completely stopping activity, so I still bring money in, but people being less craving chocolate in forms of hot drinks, or in the form of comfort food in general, they would favor mostly ice cream and smoothie and things like that, which they will find pretty much everywhere. While on the other hand, when they want really hot chocolate and these types of specific product, they would come to me because it's special enough to bring them in all winter as well, plus the gift going on and so on. So it's really about balancing out the finance in winter and knowing that I will dig into the winter finance to cover the summer, basically. And sometimes, obviously, pushing as well classes, trying effectively to work more on the social media because I have a bit more time. But it's pretty much that. It's really more like a balance out of the seasons, like pumping from the winter.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
And what do you think your favorite part is about running a business, if you could just like choose one thing?
Probably my independence. It's probably the most important thing, because it's really what as well probably didn't allow me to work very long in my other jobs. I was always too opinionated, so it didn't work out very long at the end, because people were bored of me kind of deciding for them, in a way. So so it led always to my departure in the end, of course. So it's probably that, being able to decide and have my own vision of things and my hours, and work hard or not, depending.
Yeah.
That
And I guess
freedom
you get to be quite creative, and I guess like you can choose what you have on offer in your shop, and you can do what you want to do, and you can make it how you envision it, like you said.
Yeah. So self-motivation is essential, obviously, to that. But if you have it, obviously, it gives you wings. You're just flying. It's just perfect. So yeah.
Oh, my next question is about motivation, actually. So how do you kind of keep your staff motivated, or yourself as well? Like if you're having an off day, like how do you kind of boost yourself or your staff?
Yeah, my staff, I feed them chocolate.
I felt like that had to be on there at some point.
And I give them as well my freedom, valuing that a lot, knowing that I cannot be really on people's back, and having now learned how really I should work with people in general, besides really kind of overviewing slightly how things goes, or starting the day with a few information. I'm leaving them really alone in their work, and so they feel confident, and they don't have me on their back like that. And I think that, considering it's my most important value, I give them that at the end, and I think it works well.
Yeah, definitely. And then what are you most excited about in the future? So do you have plans to expand, or do you have plans to, I don't know, try different stock or anything like that?
So at the moment, I'm more in a routine aspect, because I'm quite busy running both, so there is less creativity. I can't really be as creative as I used to be when the business was growing and I had time for that. Expansion, I find at the moment, is kind of in the pipeline, but maybe in a different way, because the museum I'm trying probably to sell or to partner for the museum, because at my point where in time where I find that, okay, I'm getting a bit more tired and all, the museum is really English, British history focused, and the history of chocolate in this country is major, has created major changes in the whole industry and creations. So I believe it needs to really grow. And I haven't been able myself to grow it as it should be, as other models of chocolate museum exist already in different parts of the world, because of financial reason, because of the way that I run it, because I'm I'm alone, really. I didn't look for any finance or partner at the time. And in a mode now of a transition in my life as well, I'm really thinking that the museum would need to find a partner or to find a buyer to really be what it needs to be, or what it could be, because I really think it's a big feature. It's a big feature to keep in this country. The history of chocolate is magical here. It's really brilliant. So it should really continue with or without me. But to relocate for me now is a bit difficult, because rents are the same. They won't lower. My model, the way I've exploited it, doesn't allow these high rents. So that's why at the moment I'm only keeping it alive, being remote. But that's pretty much where I stand at the moment, trying to find a solution for it, to allow that activity to continue and expand like it should be. For Melange, it will be the same, because either the same Melange, I've never managed at the time when I started to find chocolatier. Chocolatier is a profession which exists a lot in France, because you can study it like pastry chef. Here you can't. So a lot of people here are self-taught, and a lot of people here have picked not the profession of chocolatier, which are making chocolate from the ingredients, but they've picked, the new people in that industry have picked the profession of beans to bar, which then make them buy the beans from the farmer to making a bar. So it's all involving machine and process until they create a brand, which often is only a bar. But that's pretty much how the industry of chocolate has developed in this country, not in the chocolatier part, which for me, I'm at the end, I'm after the beans to bar maker. And because there's no school, people have picked the beans to bar, which seems a bit more sustainable in some way, because they can pick the origin of chocolate, all these aspects today that are super important. Obviously, in the industry, there is new regulation coming up in Europe, which I believe UK won't be affected by as well, which now you have to be proving the traceability of it, otherwise your product can't even pass the frontier, So it's all these aspects which are crucial now to the industry, and to let farmers make an honest living of it. So expansion, all that, I think it's in the pipeline one way or the other, to allow the museum mostly to grow, and Melange to probably stick to what it is at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like the museum is a very unique part of your business, I think. So I think that would be, it's kind of the selling point, isn't it? It's very interesting to go and learn the history of chocolate, because I personally wouldn't know about, I don't know if anybody else would know everything about it, and it would just be a really interesting thing to have, especially, yeah, alongside the shop as well. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. So like, in respects to like marketing and stuff, do you use social media to market the shop, or do you is it word of mouth? Is it kind of online? Like, how do you kind of market your business, do you think?
So at the beginning, it's still word of mouth a lot. I've neglected for many years marketing in terms of social media, and I'm still neglecting it, because I think it's also a generation issue. For me, having to, I feel like showing off, that's my feeling about it, obviously. It's really difficult to always put myself or the brand in people's face like that. It's not easy for me. So having also to pay someone to do it, I've done it a few times without any really good results. So I was never convinced by it until recently. Someone as a social media influencer who has hundreds and thousands of followers did a little video, and straight away this winter I had a lot of new people coming in and visiting the shop from all around London. But we're talking here of having at least 200,000 followers, if it's not more, to see the result. And still to see the result in a small scale, considering who I saw coming in the shop. The fact as well, I'm quite local to Peckham as a neighborhood. It's not necessarily central enough to allow people to come to me. So that's why I think in general, I think that it has been mostly word of mouth over the years, which has built Melange reputation. And for the museum as well, because a lot of teachers passed the word on, like, do you know the museum for the children, blah, blah. And so that's how it worked mostly. But the museum had a bit more social media along the way, or a bit more, I did a few campaigns here and there, but very small, honestly. Very, very small marketing, which is what I would suggest business to do more than me.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to see what works best for your business, because sometimes, you know, social media be amazing for one type of business, but it might not work for another. And like, if you itself just been there and like local people have been visiting, you're more likely to build that like actual connection with them, I think, if you're kind of, you know, seeing the same people every week or whatever. But yeah, amazing. So yeah, that kind of leads me on to my next point, is what advice would you give another business owner, like if they were just starting up?
But don't do like me. And definitely ask everyone coming in your shop to follow you, to post something, which every time I'm thinking of it, I'm ashamed of asking, so I never do it. But that's technically what needs to be done in these ages, where people respond to a lot of solicitations and a lot of options out there. So if people don't see you, sadly, they will move on to something else. And there is lots of influencers out there posting about different places, and people rely on finding out about new places like that. So if you can be local, survive locally, and don't need like an input of other customers, it's fine. But really, I think that it's a bit of both, and managing it from the beginning in a very thorough manner, not like what I do, but in very regular stages, asking everyone all the time to do something, would be much more efficient and would help. And then at least you would know what your business needs or how it responds. Because for me, it's impossible to say. For me, it's like, okay, punctually when that lady did that thing about that social media video, straight away it worked because it was winter and then everybody wanted a hot chocolate. Fair enough. Maybe it would not have worked in the middle of summer. Maybe it would have passed completely invisible, you know. So it's hard to say how it's going to work. But yeah, no, I think a bit of both to assess it, but more marketing definitely.
Okay, amazing. And then why do you think it's important to support like small businesses such as yourself, like now more than ever?
But we work a lot to keep things a bit more authentic, I believe, where there is less uniformization or less stereotype stuff. I find that in this country as well, or everywhere, but a lot of people respond to stereotypes, even in taste, which suddenly everybody hears about something and everybody wants to try something which has the same taste, you know. So I think that's the food industry, at least, the food industry allowed that to be more creative and offering like more choices and more mind opening to people to try different things and to see also my shop is the way it's decorated. It's very unique, and everybody coming in will find it beautiful because they don't see that anywhere. So all the mainstream spaces as well have like identical space, identical lighting, identical wall paint, you know, everything is very standard. So supporting small businesses allows kind of, well, of course for us it's essential because we are not supported financially, but I don't believe that anyway the big businesses don't suffer less than us, because at the end they still have rent, staff and all. So it's more like to find something a bit more authentic and genuine and original, probably, you know, overall.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you could go back to the start of your business journey, I know you spoke a little bit about this before, but would you change anything, or are you kind of happy with all the learning curves that you've been through?
Changing anything, probably it's hard to say because it's not like I could find more people working with me anyway, professionally. So I could not have grown easily in any ways. The museum before COVID reached really like a full capacity in the premises we had. So I think that overall it worked. However, I was doing it. Changing. No, I like these boroughs where I went. I like the achievements. The only thing that was complicated was always the landlord relationships when it's time to renew lease. So this is nothing you can change as well because it's really how market goes.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm quite content. The only thing maybe I would have hoped to achieve at some point would have been to join really Melange with the museum. Because I believe that the museum, I believe museums all over the world usually represent a brand, a chocolate brand, and in that case, the museum was representing Melange, but I never had a chance to really associate them more clearly. So that would be probably the point that I would make, that I would improve. Making not a joint venture necessarily, but associate them better, and hopefully, yes, one day I would have hoped to have them under the same roof. It would have been my.
So like they were quite separate, so you'd want to kind of merge them a bit more than you did.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and make it more obvious because people after 15 years at Melange still don't know I had a museum. Bit crazy, right? So I'm talking about my regulars. I'm not talking even about. So that's really that again. Communication, marketing, and really having the right message, sending the right message out. Yeah, that would be where I would definitely improve if I could.